Welcome to Bloop, guys. And here at Bloop, we believe that readers have a right to know. And usually, every Tuesday night, we review a book, and then we do some little book news. So tonight is Laura's turn to do book news. It's my night to review something. Tonight, I'm going to be reviewing a book called A Different Blue by Amy Harmon. And this is the book cover. Hang on.
Yeah, we didn't do that 2 weeks ago.
This is it. I'm gonna do a little bit like what I did last week, and that's kind of like do a quick review before I dive into the synopsis, just to give you a little bit of a backstory. This synopsis does go into a little bit more detail than last week's. So anyway, we open up to reading this book, and we meet Blue Echohart. She is a senior in high school.
Ooh, I like that name.
Her name is Blue. Yeah.
Blue Echohart.
Blue Echohart. Yeah. Okay. She's beautiful. I mean, I kind of imagine her looking like the girl on the cover of this book. She's a beautiful girl, and she knows it. And she uses her beauty and her
cool name.
Vernacular. She's very abrupt and all of that with her words. She's in a rebellious stage, let's just say. Okay. She's a senior in high school, but she doesn't know anything really about herself. She really doesn't even know her real name. She was abandoned when she was 2 years old in somebody's truck. So she doesn't know her real age. She doesn't know her name. She doesn't know her parents. She doesn't know anything about herself, really. So she was raised by a man named Jimmy Echohart, and the only thing that she could really say at 2 was the word blue over and over again. So he started calling her Blue. So that's where her name came from. She didn't really go to traditional school until Jimmy dies, and then she's put into regular school, and so she's never really had the schooling background, and they're not really sure where she's at. Not only that, but they don't know how old she is. So at around 11, they start putting her in regular school. So as a senior now in high school, she's a lot older than the other kids in her class. I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question? I must have missed it, or maybe you didn't say, but so the guy who basically adopts her, how did he find her? Was she left somewhere? Did he go in for adoption? Like, how did that, or is that spoiler?
That's kind of a spoiler, but she was ultimately left in his truck. So
okay.
But I'll let you guys figure that out when you read the book.
Okay.
On why and how
okay.
and all that. But anyway, so now she's a senior in high school. She's not really the same age as all the other seniors in high school. She's a little bit older. She knows she's probably a little bit older. And she, like I said, she's going through this rebellious period. And she has this new teacher in history class. He's he's only 22 years old, and he's, you know all about being a young history teacher at a high school. He's a British guy. He's cute. He's like all the things, and he gives her this assignment, and it makes her kind of think about her past and where she came from and stuff like that. So it kind of starts to make her start to have to revisit things that she has decided to put to bed in her head, and he starts to pull out different parts of her personality. She starts to confide it. They become friends, and then she graduates high school, and they continue to be friends, and they build this great friendship with each other. He helps her out of some jams, and then a romance starts to build between. I was
going to say,
her.
They become friends. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, I knew where that's going.
So there's like this, yes. So this relationship starts to brood, and it is a slow burn. I mean, throughout the whole book, you just feel the tension the whole time. His name is Darcy Wilson. What a name! But everybody calls him Wilson because he even says in the book, he's like, obviously, everybody calls me Wilson because Darcy. I mean, anyway. So Now I'm going to read the synopsis just so you know. Um, Blue Echo Hawk, sorry, doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know her real name or when she was born. Abandoned at 2 and raised by a drifter, she didn't attend school until she was 10 years old. I said 11, I'm sorry, it's 10. At 19, when most kids her age are attending college or moving on with life, she's just a senior in high school with no mother, no father, no faith, and no future. Blue Echo Hawk is a different student, to say the least. Tough, hard, and overtly sexy. She is the complete opposite of the young British teacher who decides he is up for the challenge and takes the troublemaker under his wing. This is the story of a nobody who becomes somebody. It is the story of an unlikely friendship where hope fosters healing and redemption becomes love. But falling in love can be hard when you don't know who you are. Falling in love with somebody who knows exactly who they are and exactly why they can't love you back might be impossible. So this story, again, kind of messy, but am I paused? No, I'm not.
No.
Okay. I thought you were like so still. I thought I was paused. Sorry.
I was focused listening here.
Okay. So this book is just, got all the qualities I love in a book. It's messy, but there's a redemption story in the end of it.
Okay.
I just love the relationship and the fact that they started with a friendship first and then it built into something more. And I love that Blue is challenged to face all of her past and try to figure out, she actually starts to figure out where she came from and put all those puzzle pieces together. And it's a very beautiful story. I give it 5 stars.
Ooh.
This was another one I really like, yes. I think she's a favorite author of mine so far. I know I've only read 2 books, but I'm on my 3rd by her. I'm reading another book by her now called The Law of Moses. There was also a lot of faith in this book too, just as the last book by her, that touched on faith. I mean, it doesn't like hammer you with it, but she does start to question God in this book and why all the bad things happen to people and all of that stuff. So I loved the touches there.
Okay.
My content rating, I'm going to give my content rating is young adult 16 because there's some topics in here that's a little bit heavy for a 13-year-old. So I'm sticking with young adult 16. The sexual content is a 1 though. There's nothing above a 1. I mean, and honestly, even though there was no sexual things going on in this book, it wasn't necessary. I mean, the tension was there, the romance was there. You didn't really need the sex scenes. So I know that a lot of people like the sex and the spice and all that, but it wasn't even necessary. I didn't believe in this book at all.
So you gave it Y16, right? So was it like closed door, like you knew it happened, or like what do you mean?
Passionate kisses, no touching above or over or under the clothes or below the waist. And when there is a sex scene, it's closed door. It's fade to black. I mean, you don't know what's going on. I mean, you know what's going on, but you don't know what's going on. So yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That's about it. So, but I love this book and I look forward to reading more books by her because she's a favorite author now, for sure.
All right. I like it. I can take it. Would it be something I would like?
Yeah, you would definitely like it. It's not, I mean, I think that the last book I read by her was a little bit more emotional than this one. So you would probably really like this book a lot. And I think, I mean, I say young adult 16, but if you're, if you were 14, 15-year-old can handle some, a little bit more advanced romance. I say advanced romance without sex, but, just a little bit more, then it's safe because of the sexual content. So.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to, I know I have to give them a look. I was reading so many things for like our dual. I was talking about this with Rebecca earlier, but so many things for our like dual session when we record. So those books I was reading, and then I have the books I got to read for book club. And then there was a book that I read that I was like, yes, I'm going to get my book done for Tuesday for my review. And I was sharing with Rebecca, I was like, I wasn't my jam, so I'm not. So now I'm like, oh gosh,
so now you got to find a book so that you can review it and not a book that you really want.
Go ahead.
But, hey, well, you can't have these because they're mine. But you can,
right.
You can listen to them for sure, but you can't review them.
Right. I got to listen to them at another time. So I'm like, okay, but I was like scrambling. I found like a 7-hour listen. So I'm like, okay, I could probably get through that this week. But I have family coming in and all the things. So I'm like trying to slowly do things for my release and get my audiobooks in production, which leads us to our discussion today of a bookish topic, and that is audiobooks. I wanted to share as a writer, and some of this information will be important for, not important, but might help you as another indie author if you are an indie author or writer and you're looking to get your books into audiobook form. But we're going to talk about some of the challenges with that and what some of these bigger named authors are doing to help us little indie authors, because we are kind of being mistreated in the audiobook realm of things. So first things first, I was stressing out, but I was able to work with my narrator who narrated book 1 in my trilogy, Andy Garcia Ruz. She's really awesome. She actually won an award. I just found out, Rebecca. She won an award or was recognized by the APA, which is like, she told me it was the equivalent to like the Grammys for musicians and the Oscars for actors.
Wow.
But it's their organization for narrators. And they did like a feature on her for her performance in my first book. I was like,
wow, that's cool.
It's not me who did it, it was all her. But so I thought that was cool, and I really wanted to her again. Sorry, 1 second. My husband, he doesn't ever text me, so I'm like, okay, I hope everything's okay. Sorry about that. Anyways, so I was a little bit stressed because I wasn't sure I'd be able to afford to produce audiobooks for the second and third book in my trilogy. I was sharing this with Rebecca. So to get an audiobook created, standard rate is around $200 per finished hour. And the thing is, sorry, I have a thing open right now for a Brandon Sanderson article I want to share, and it's stressed because ads keep popping up and it's playing, and I'm so sorry, it was distracting to me. Anyways, so to get an audiobook produced, it is roughly about $200 per finished hour. And what per finished hour is like when you go to purchase an audiobook or you go to listen and it tells you like it's 11 hours and 14 minutes or whatever. The per finished hour, that's the finished amount of hours. So that's what that rate means. So when you write a book, you know, especially fantasy, and your books are like 120,000 words, you're looking at around 13 to 14 finished hours in your book. So you times that by $200, you're looking at like a hefty fee per book. And then, and that's average. So that's getting somebody who's like, you know, they have some experience and they're decent at their craft, but you're not going to get like, you know, you're paying for level of talent, you know, people who have accolades and who have trained. I mean, my narrator, bless her heart, she worked with me because I worked with her on book 1, but since then she has
gone on to be great.
She has done so much vocal training. She knows how to do all these accents. Like, she's phenomenal. So, but, you know, and you can even do it. There's other options to do it cheaper. And so there's places like 11 Labs that you can have like, I guess it can record your voice and then like take your voice, but it would be AI. So, but I don't know how I feel about AI for narration. One, because I'm an audiobook listener, like I I don't like listening to it because it doesn't have like an emotional impact. There's no like urgency or
Sounds like
like
a
being able
robot.
to feel. Yeah, it's almost robotic, but it's like getting good now where it's like a human voice, but it's still robotic. And it's getting a little better, but I don't know. I, I don't know how I feel about it because I feel like you're taking jobs away from humans who do a better job at it. But at the same
Hmm.
time, it's becoming very cost prohibitive to do it. Like I was sharing, like at $200 is an easy, is a average run of the mill rate, 200 to 250. You times that by 13, 14-hour books. Some books are 17, 18 hours. I mean, it's getting expensive. Now the problem is if we were reimbursed appropriately by companies that host our audiobooks, it might be more obtainable, in other words. Like when I made my first audiobook, I was kind of under the impression like I will use these earnings and use those earnings to produce audiobook 2 and then use those earnings to produce audiobook 3 because that's what
Right.
happened with the selling of my books because it's also not cheap to publish a book. You're talking cover design, you're talking a couple different editors, you're talking formatters, you're talking ISBNs. There's so much that goes into it. And that part of it already costs thousands as well. But with ebooks and paperback book sales, I was able to take my earnings and publish book 2. Take my earnings and then working on publishing book 3. So I just kind of assumed that would happen. However, for ebooks, the standard rate to like the what is it? What did he say? Um, like this 70 like the standard percentage of sale, like what the creator gets per sale for ebooks is like 70%, which is great. That's like the cross industry standard. That's how it should be.
Hmm.
For audiobooks, we have very limited options, right? We basically have Audible and we have Findaway Voices, and just recently there's Spotify, and I believe Speechify is kind of coming onto the scene. But for a long time, it was just Audible, and then Findaway Voices came out. Now, because Audible has a monopoly on the market, if you don't know who Audible is, it's Amazon. And I'm not trying to make an enemy of Amazon or whatnot, but I do feel as an indie author, they are taking advantage of us and like basically squeezing us dry. I don't know what the phrase is. But if you go exclusive with them, that is, if you choose to only sell your audiobook with them, that means not going wide. So only people who can listen to it are people who go to Audible to purchase it or have the Audible account and they do like the whatever plan they have. You get only 40% of a sale. Even less if the person uses an Audible credit to buy your book. Now,
Right.
if you choose not to go exclusive with them, that goes to 25% only. So the creator gets only 25%, and it's even less if they use an Audible credit, which basically it's like, I think I got a royalty for 17 cents for somebody buying my audiobook from Audible using a credit. It was like 17 cents or 37 cents. Basically, it wasn't even, yeah, I can't really do much with that. So you're looking at that as like, how am I supposed to recoup my costs ever
Right.
to want to keep producing? And so I'm just trying to figure out what is their game plan for that because it's very expensive to produce, but you're not, you don't, for when it comes to audiobooks, it's not like they have a storefront with employees and they're paying the brick and mortar prices to like keep a storefront running. You are a host. So I don't understand how you can give us 70% for audiobooks, I mean for ebooks, which is standard across the board, but then because you know you have a monopoly, you're gonna just at maximum give 40%. It just
Yeah,
doesn't
that's crazy.
seem right. So here comes Brandon Sanderson, who is a hugely well-known fantasy author. And he basically sat with Audible and was trying, this was something that bothered him, right? He's doing extremely well. He's had contracts with Audible where he's exclusive on Audible for a lot of his book series. and he does really well. So he knew he was taking a risk by where they couldn't come to an agreement. He has, I think, 3 or 4 secret project books that he's like, they will not be on Audible. I am going elsewhere. And where he has decided to go with these is, I believe, Find a Way and Speechify. But I think more so Speechify, or not Find a Way, sorry, Spotify and Speechify. Because they're 2 companies who I believe are going to try to take a stand and be competitive to Audible and offer, I don't know what Spotify will do, because he said that he had to sign an NDA, so he can't share what the deals are for Spotify. But with Speechify is willing to do 70%, which I just learned today by trying to look up what was like the latest with Brandon Sanderson, and I just learned about Speechify today, because my knowledge of Speechify was like, it's like an app you can put in, and you could put in text and it will read it back to you, and it's like, so it's AI and all that. So I had no idea they were doing audiobooks as well. So so I'm like, ooh, that's a place I'm going to look at today or tomorrow whenever we're done here. But he said, what did he say? I wanted to share some quotes with him. Sorry, bear with me for just a second.
But you said also too that you had put some auditions out there for people to audition for your book, and you were getting back some crazy stuff. Sorry if I'm skipping ahead.
No. I just wanted to share something that he said. He was quoted. He says what he's calling out Audible essentially, and I was just very thankful for bigger named authors that are doing this, because Amazon really has been doing things, unconscionable things to indie authors. I believe I shared this with you before about the Kindle Unlimited exclusive and how they're taking the indie author's account down and completely like closing them out of the account if they find their book on a pirated site. Like, we have control over a pirate taking our books being pirated, right? And we don't really have a lot of ability to get those taken down. But he goes, it's a good company doing bad things. And he recognizes that they have a monopoly. And he says, however, they treat authors very poorly, particularly indie authors. So the deal Audible demands of them is unconscionable, and I'm hoping that providing market forces and talking about the issues with his platform, he realizes he has a large platform, that it will encourage change in a positive direction. So let's hope. Because audiobooks are like they're becoming more and more popular and more like demand for them, right? Where it's like, for some genres, like 75% of the books are consumed via just Audible, not paperback or ebook. So that's a big deal. But anyways, that was a whole long spiel to say, like, so I was very hesitant, but like I said, luckily my narrator is awesome. She agreed to work with me, and based on a similar contract for book 1, which made it feasible for me. Still very expensive, but it was worth it. So now I'm in the audition process because she's my female narrator, but I have some POV, point of view changes in book 2 and book 3. In book 2, it's about 16 chapters that are from a male point of view. She can do the male voices. I just kind of wanted to add a little bit different. So like, I think I shared about this with you before, like in Spinning Silver, there was no indication on when the point of view was changing. And so I wanted to just help readers that much more. If I can change the voice even that much more, and it would be like they would be able to more easily identify that we're in a different POV. So if I don't find anybody I like, then we're just going to have her do the whole thing. But so I'm auditioning male narrators, and I'm getting some great auditions. Some, they will write me a note and say, hey, I'm new at this. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated, which is very nice. So I will spend time to go back and do that since they took the time to audition. But I don't know what is going on. This was not my experience 2 years ago when I did this. But I'm getting submissions that are AI. It's like you have to create an account as a narrator to audition. And yet somehow I'm getting auditions that are AI through ACX. And I'm thinking, if I wanted an AI narration. I would have went to an AI narration site. I'm looking for a human. And what's even more funny is they're just like very bold. So it feels very spammy, scammy, like you would hire them and you wouldn't get any, you would spend money and you wouldn't get any product back from them almost, it kind of feels like.
Yeah, the way that you described it was kind of reminiscent of the days when, online you would something like as a scam, and the person would be like, yeah, you need to pay me this much money or whatever, total scam language. They don't even spell things correctly. It's all over the place.
Yeah, and it was like, and it's like, and I will have this done for you by this date, and you will pay me $400 per finished hour. And I'm like, when you put up your audiobook, you click on what pay range you're willing to pay per finished hour. So it's like, okay, no, sir, hold your horses. I don't have to pay you anything. First of all, you're acting like I'm choosing you, first of all. Second of all, I responded to you and said, I don't want AI narration, but thank you for your time. And then you tell me back, oh no, it will be great, and you will pay me $400 per hour. Like, no. And then I got another one. So I got a few like that. They weren't all as bold to say the $400 per hour. They just sent me AI narrations. And then there was another guy who was messaging me, explaining, like, he answered all my questions. Like, I had some stipulations in my audition, like about accents and what system do you use, and to leave like 30 seconds of like airtime so I could hear what your studio sounds like in background noise, all these things. And so he was explaining all these things, and then he was like, okay, so if you could send me the link. And I'm like, so I responded back and I'm like, what link? And he's like, the link to your book. Because he's like, I'm looking for projects. I want to take on projects that are like, that want to get started right away. And I had he was like, so I was just curious when you think you would start the project. And I was like, in May, middle of May, maybe towards the end of May, but definitely in May. And he was like, okay. And he's like, okay, so where's the link? And I'm what are you talking about, link? He's like, to your book. And I'm like, I don't think you know what this process is. Like, you need to go back out and click on the audition, and you will see a script with all the details there, and you have to audition just like everybody else.
Right.
And then just get my book. Yeah, and then I got another one from a guy who claimed he was 16 years old and he was in theater and all this different stuff and would love to be considered. And I'm like, well, where's your audition? Like, there's a lot of messages that are just so weird like this. And I didn't have this experience the first time. So it leads me to believe, like, Audible, what are you doing to protect your authors who are looking for narrators at this point? That's a lot. That was like, for every 2 normal auditions, I had like a spammy one.
That's weird.
Right.
It's really weird.
It's really weird. And it's not
I know that when you sign up to be a narrator, it's like a long, drawn out process, or at least it was a couple of years ago. I don't know about now, but a couple of years ago it was a lengthy process to make sure you're legitimate and you're not just doing whatever. I don't know.
Right. So that's where I'm at. So I'm like, okay, so I have a couple people who I'm interested in. I have to send them all to my narrator, and she's gonna kind of vet them, and because I asked questions she helped me figure out some questions to ask so that she can make sure that their recording would kind of be able to mesh up, or she can work with that and her producer can work with that too for final production of it. But so at least I have a few options of people who could do the accents that I was looking for.
You'll definitely have to keep us posted on how that is all going to go.
Yeah,
or how it's going.
For sure. But yeah, it's just very disheartening and disappointing when it's like, Amazon has really made it so they are the dominating force of book sales, and then they realize this, and it's like, I have to be nervous about having my book in Kindle Unlimited in case somebody wants to pirate it. And then I took it out of Audible and I put mine in Find Away Voices, because at the time when I switched it over, it was the only other option. Spotify is just doing audiobooks. And I didn't know anything about Speechify. I think that's really recent too. But at least Find Away, it was like 45%, and that was wide. So remember what I said, Audible was 25% if you went wide, and that's only if they didn't use an Audible credit. And then there was like this whole thing going on with something called Audible Gate, which Amazon was allowing people to return an audiobook past 365 days after purchase, even if they listened through the whole thing.
Oh yeah, we kind of touched on that a little bit too.
So that was like another reason why I was like, bye. Like, I understand allowing people to return a book, but you should know by like 30-40% of the way through if this book is for you or not. Maybe 50% if you were like trying to hold on. After that, it's kind of like asking for a return on a pizza that you ate the whole thing. You're like, oh, it wasn't the best pizza.
It's kind of like what some people started doing with Uber drivers. They would get an Uber, go get halfway there, and then cancel their Uber driver so that Uber would refund the money. And the driver's like, wait a minute, you're like, here. And they would just get, so then the driver is getting a bad review and not and being put out of the money and all of that too. So
and it was unlimited. You could do that to every single book if you wanted to. And so
that's awful.
There was so many people on TikTok were sharing like, oh, you want to listen to audiobooks for free? Here's what you got to do. So like and Audible was allowing it. And so what was happening was all these authors were owing money.
Oh, no.
Audible. Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Well, and also the readers, I mean, Laura's had to educate me a lot on how this works, because I would try to, if I couldn't find a book that I really wanted to listen to via Audible or a library app or something, I would try to go down the rabbit hole to try to find it for free. And then Laura's like, no, don't do that. These are all the reasons why you don't do that. And so we also have to educate readers too, to know what happens to the author when you go through all the ways to get it for free,
Yeah, well, so sometimes it looks very much like a legit site, and you think, oh, okay, that author must have, and they're not, unless it's a site where, I mean, you have to pay money or you have to own an account. So even a library, you have an account. You can't just go to their website and get the book. You have an account. You're responsible, because libraries, the way they set it up, they're kind of like in a pool, and they will set it up so they either have to pay like per hour listen. It's very nominal, but like per hour listen, they pay the subscription service, and then you get a kickback of that, or per download. And then maybe they have an agreement that every 20 downloads, they have to renew that subscription to that book or whatnot. So there's a couple of different ways that it happens, but yeah, it is. But I mean, if you are looking for free, a lot of authors are trying to get around this by putting, like, they're reading their books themselves or doing stuff where they're putting up their book on YouTube, so you can listen that way. And they're like releasing it like as like a serial thing. They're starting to do podcasts with it, where they'll release a chapter a week or something, and it's free, obviously, but I mean, you have to wait. But if you're looking for free, those are all significantly better than pirating it, because at least this time they're getting views, they're getting hours listened, and there's still a chance for them, not out of your pocket, but out of, like YouTube's, whatever, or whatnot, that they can get some monetary kickback from it.
Exactly. So. Well, you'll definitely have to keep us posted, but
I will.
We are out of time tonight, folks. We're gonna head on over to Clapper. I don't know if you guys have heard of Clapper, but Laura and I are now on Clapper, so we've been coming on YouTube. And now, we're on Instagram. Sorry, we've been doing this live, and then we go over to Clapper. So if you want to,
Rebecca will be on Clapper first, because I have to wait for this to download so I could post it. So it's the same handle, Blue Podcast, on Clapper, and we are on. So if you go to our website, there's all the links there for everywhere we're located. But as Rebecca was saying, so. Our website is bluepodcast.com, and we are on all the socials, same handle. And if you haven't yet, give us a like, follow, and subscribe.
Yes. And on Spotify too, and Rumble. We're on all the things. All the things, guys. We're on
all the things. And it feels like it.
Until next Tuesday, happy reading, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.